Hey exiles, welcome to another stream. Tonight I am being interviewed by BlazeworksTV. We're going to talk about Path of Exile 2, my journey as a content creator, as today is the 2-year anniversary of my channel actually being really started. And of course, if you haven't seen it already, we got Path of Exile 1 news. The best thing for PoE 2 is PoE 1 news. And we finally got it. Looks like an Atlas expansion with possibly Zana. It's also very hot here. Not sure if you realize. I'm looking pretty sweaty. So I am going to hide everything. And I am going to hop in the call with BlazeWorks TV. And we're going to start chatting. Hey, Suna, what's going on, man? Hope everybody's doing well. This is going to be a very different type of stream. You're going to see what it's like for me to be interviewed as opposed to me interviewing. Voice and video, headset. Video is going to be my virtual webcam. Start. Okay, it should be good to go. Stratford was great. All right, I'm hopping into the call. We're going to get it set up. It is very hot in here. Okay.
Hello, good sir.
Hey, Blaze, what's happening, man?
Not too much. What's going on with you?
Oh, you know, daughter. All right, right at the edge. We went to my parents tonight, so it took a little longer to get her down. And of course, our house is I don't know if you can see. Can you see me? Is the picture all good? I hope.
I sure can.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty sweaty in here. It's pretty hot. So I splashed some water on my face, but this is not the water splash. This is legit sweat. This is legit sweat. Oh, I am hearing myself. I hear double.
Yes, you are. You can go ahead and mute the Discord share screen. I'm just going to share this with you really quickly. So that you can see what the podcast looks like.
Perfect. It looks excellent, man. And I muted it. So we're all good there. It looks great.
Awesome. Yeah, if you're happy with that, I can adjust anything if you need to, if you want yourself zoomed in more or whatever you feel.
No, I'm totally good, dude. Do you need me to swap my mirroring at all? Like my camera, or is it fine? I'm pretty good. Like if I'm looking at the camera, it's good. If I'm looking at you, we're also good.
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay.
Yeah, I tend to look at this monitor, but I see you on this one perfectly. Okay, so all right, sweet.
Is my volume good? Really quick. Do you know?
You sound great to me. Okay, if you have chatters in there, maybe just get them to let you know if I sound good. Okay. Volume wise.
I think you're looking good on my end. I also, everybody's saying all good. I also saw, I don't know if you want to try it, but it says I can collab with you. So our stream chats can be combined. If you want that, it's up to you though. Totally up to you.
That sounds awesome. I'm not currently streaming, but I'm gonna hit the start stream button right now, and then we can go from there.
All right, sounds good. Hell yeah.
Sweet. How was Canada, bro?
Well, I believe you're a fellow Canadian as well, so I gotta say it was good, right? Okay, it was good. It was good. Had a lot of fun. I saw one play. I saw As You Like It, which was phenomenal. It's one of Shakespeare's most famous comedies. Really enjoyed it. It was a great performance. My daughters had a great time. We went to 5 different parks. All of them were spectacular. Canada parks, at least the ones we visited, dunk on American parks, okay? I'll just be real. So they were phenomenal. I had a snafu at the border, though. I almost wasn't let back into the U.S.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell me more. Also, side note, where in Canada were you exactly?
We went to Stratford. So Stratford, Ontario. I believe it's close to Toronto. I think.
That's crazy.
It is.
You went to Stratford, Ontario?
Yes. Yes. Yep. Why?
Wow. Okay. My partner is from there.
Oh, really? It's
like basically just in that area. It's such a random part of Canada. Like I assumed that you were Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto. I just was surprised to hear Stratford. You know what I mean?
It's home to the Stratford Film Festival. So it has this whole theater scene where people from Broadway, they come and they perform there, and it's quite prestigious. And it's quite good because Shakespeare, He was born in, I'm so bad, Stratford and Avon. I think that in England, I think that's where he was born. What the heck was it? He was born in a place called Stratford.
Ah,
So this
I
this
see.
scene
I
has grown
see.
up around it, and they do a lot of classical Shakespeare, and then they do remixes on Shakespeare's plays. So, for example, the one that I didn't see, it was Macbeth, and it's Macbeth but with a biker gang. So they modernize it a little bit, for current day audiences, and with the old dialogue though, and it's great. It's so good.
That sounds super fun. Awesome, man. Yeah, I never expected to hear Stratford, but glad you had a good time. Glad you enjoyed the parks. Why did you not get let through the border?
Okay, so in the state I live, you can get an enhanced license. Okay, my wife has one. I thought I had one. And so when we go across, we give them the border patrol agent, our licenses, the birth certificates of my 2 daughters. We go across the border, no problem. Either at the U.S. checkpoint or the Canadian checkpoint. Get over, all good, great time. Super stellar stuff. We come back across. Firstly, nobody was crossing the Canadian border. It was 5 p.m. There was a legion of semi-trucks. 0 actual people crossing besides us, which was almost like eerie, because it's this huge area, a massive bridge, and it's just us there. So that probably played in our favor. We get to the checkpoint, and I hand all the birth certificates and the license over, and the guy's taken longer than the first time, and he looks to me, and he says, "You have no proof you are a U.S. citizen." And at first I thought, I was like, what do you mean? It's got an enhanced license right there. The little star on the corner. And he says, that is not an enhanced license. I cannot know you are a U.S. citizen. Deadpan Blaze. Well, and I knew at that moment, I was like, okay, well, this was not a friendly jab or joke, right? Okay, time to get serious. And long story short, we were there for, like 7-8 minutes. And luckily, I had a passport that I got to go to Germany in 2016 or 2015. It expires, dude, in 6 days. And it was still valid. So he looked me up.
Nice.
I was good to go, and I made it across the border. But if I hadn't had a valid passport, I would have had to stay in Canada until I could renew my passport. I had no proof I was a citizen on me.
That's crazy. It's honestly impressive that you were able to get into the country without that, anyway. So sounds like you got blessed.
Dude,
you sounds like you got really blessed this weekend.
Dude, that is what I thought. I was shocked we got in because, we were like an hour away from the border. So it would have been totally fine the day of having to drive back, whatever. But, I'd consider myself lucky, dude.
For sure.
Now I know for the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a little bit of a stigma around the U.S. border with Canada. I think, as Canadians going into the U.S., we're usually we usually view it as it's a little bit more intense. But I feel like for Americans, I don't know how you feel about going into Canada, but does it feel intense for you guys, or is it just more of like, we're going into Canada, it's fine, we're gonna just no problem kind of up there?
I've been to Canada 8 or 9 times. All the times before, not a problem, dude. This was the only time it was legitimately frightening. It was fun, and it's just crossing the border. Like in Canada, everybody's really chill. Everybody's quite nice. I'm a friendly. Shocking. I'm a very friendly person. I'm the type of person who, we went on a walk on Mother's Day, right, in the neighborhood that we were renting the Airbnb in. Said hi, happy Mother's Day to all the people we passed. We chatted them up. We had a good time. Everybody was just lovely. It was just a lovely experience. So I have no complaints about Canada at all from the U.S. point of view. You think it's a little more intimidating when you're coming over? And you're in Montreal, right? So it would be what, the Pacific Northwest that you may have crossed and gone into before?
So I'm in Toronto.
Oh, you're in Toronto.
And I go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Toronto. But yeah, I've gone to the States a couple times, and every time you go through there, there's always this sort of I don't know what it is, this little bit of fear that gets into you, and the US is just so intimidating for whatever reason, and they always take their security so seriously, you know what I mean? So I've never had an issue personally. I feel like I'm a pretty friendly guy, but you hear these horror stories of people kind of getting held up and people try to avoid, layovers in the US at all costs if you're trying to fly somewhere just because it adds a lot of extra time and stuff.
Yeah, no, I
Love you guys
totally get it.
as Americans, but you guys, the security, you guys take it seriously.
Very much so. I experienced it firsthand.
For sure. All right, now with that fun little quip out of the way, I would love to actually get down to brass tacks here. So I'm going to hit the record button. We're going to get into it if you're cool with that.
All good to go on my end, man.
All right, sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Passive Tree Podcast, a podcast dedicated to talking about life, Path of Exile 2, and everything in between. I'm your host, BlazeworksTV, and tonight on this very special 6th episode, we have Talkative Try, a podcast host of the Still Staying podcast, content creator, streamer, Path of Exile 2 extraordinaire. Welcome on, and how the heck are you doing, man?
Well, thank you for that lovely intro. First of all, love the pod name. Rolls right off the tongue. You got a good one there. Second, I'm doing well tonight. I'm pretty sweaty, so apologies for the glistening skin and the the globs of water that are gonna run down my face. But other than that, I'm refreshed. I had a nice vacation. We just got some news about Path of Exile 2 last night. Today, we got news about Path of Exile 1, which I think is just excellent for both games. So I'm in an overall good mood and a good gaming / content mood as well. I really am.
That's excellent to hear. Yeah, sometimes it's nice to sort of step away from the gaming, step away from the computer from a little bit, and come back to some just refreshing feeling and some good news, and especially when it comes to Path of Exile stuff. And it just feels like they've really kept the ball rolling with the updates and the just progression towards making the game better.
Yeah.
But before we get into Path of Exile 2, I would love to get to know you a little bit better, since this is the first time we've actually had a chance to sit down and chat. And so I would love to just get to a few little, try bits of lore. First, starting off with just what was your first time, ever playing video games? Do you remember that? Your foray into gaming? If you could just explain that to me a little bit.
100%. Yeah. So I love lore, first of all. So let's dive right in. My first memory of gaming is learning to read via Baldur's Gate 1. My dad was a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. He was actually in the military, stationed overseas in Germany in the 1970s and 80s when he learned how to play D&D. And he played, first edition, second edition, everything in between. And he basically dropped the hobby once he had me in 97. And then he saw that there was this cool new game coming out. I'm pretty sure it was Baldur's Gate 1, and that was in 1999, but he didn't pick it up till a year later. And I remember sitting on his lap reading the dialogue bits from that game vividly when I was 3 or 4 years old. And ever since then, I've just been hooked on gaming. I swear. Baldur's Gate 1, Neverwinter Nights 1, BG2. I played a little bit of Diablo 2, but I wasn't necessarily into that. It was mostly those Dungeons and Dragons centric RPGs, and the rest is history, honestly.
That's incredible. It's a very unique story, actually. I think that from most people's perspectives in terms of starting out gaming, it's usually console, whether it was Super Nintendo or whatever. But your foray was straight to computer games, and that was because of your dad's influence, right?
Yeah, my dad he still is, to a degree. He was at the forefront of tech in the 90s and early 2000s. He was one of the people who would build his own computer back then, and we'd scavenge places for parts and all that. So he was very into PC games. I was actually so much of a console noob. My skill wasn't high enough that I just bounced from a lot of console games. I remember vividly getting a GameCube and getting the Hobbit game for the GameCube, and I just couldn't even figure it out. Maybe I was bad or stupid, and I would just bounce back to the computer games that were more role-playing focused, dialogue focused, and turn-based, right? Not real-time. But yeah, I've always been a PC gamer. I think the last console that I truly bought was the Wii, and that was a family sort of thing. We were in the exercise phase, like the Wii Fit, the push-ups on the pad and all that. Yeah. So ever since then, I've not really had a console of my own. So I've stuck to PC gaming mostly.
That's super cool. Yeah, PC master race through and through,
Truly.
from learning to read on the PC, sitting on his dad's lap playing Baldur's Gate 1. You can't get any more hardcore than that. Since Baldur's Gate 1, were there any other games that sort of just like left a lasting impression on you? I know that probably could be a lot of games, but just a couple that were like, damn, like this is gonna, I'm gonna think about this forever.
Okay. First, I just want to ask you a question before I go into this. How many games do you think you've played over the course of your life? Do you think you could sum up a rough estimate?
Oof, yeah, that's a tough one. I'd probably say like at least a couple hundred, but yeah, like I don't know.
Okay, so that's
I think maybe that's like on the like generous side of like estimations probably.
Oh, okay, all right. So I asked you this because I needed to just reinforce this point and how crazy it is. I actually sat down the other day because I was thinking about this, and I laid out all the games that I remember playing. Dude, I think I've played like 30 games in total. I am chronically a mono gamer. I will attach myself to a game and not play anything else. So, on that point, games that have had a lasting impact on me truly are Neverwinter Nights 1, primarily. And have you ever played that or heard about it before? I'm curious.
I've heard of it. I've never played it. I remember seeing the box art back in the day. It looked super cool. Probably even opened up that box, but I never got into it.
Dude, it's a phenomenal game. So you could never get away with it today. I don't think, at least. So essentially, it's the closest that I think the gaming industry has ever come to putting pen and paper D&D to the computer. It had, of course, its main campaign and everything like Baldur's Gate 3 would have, but it also had something called the Aurora tile set or tool set, which would allow you to build your own worlds and games within it with scripting and pre-generated models. And there were hundreds, if not thousands, of persistent worlds created using the Neverwinter Nights tool set. And they were basically mini MMOs created by enthusiasts that you'd get, hundreds of dedicated players on each. And my dad was a DM for one of them, so he helped create the world and everything. So it was a vibrant community of like 600 people. And it's just so fascinating because these stories could just evolve over time naturally. And everybody, it was like a massive D&D game. That game will forever be cemented in my heart. And it's not the campaign that the developers made. It's the tools the developers gave to the players to make their own content. Absolute peak. Neverwinter Nights. We'll always remember it. Alongside that, Age of Mythology holds a very special place in my heart. A real-time strategy game. It's in the Age of series. Lots of people like Age of Empires 2. I'm an Age of Mythology stan. Retold, which came out last year. Absolutely excellent remake of a game. If you liked Age of Mythology back then, totally should check it out now. And aside from that, man, in my childhood, I don't think anything else had that much of a lasting impact. I got into like Dungeons and Dragons Online, Guild Wars 2. Didn't play FPS games. I'm a mono gamer, man. I stick with a game and I just play it and I become obsessed. And I know people aren't like that, obviously. You played a couple hundred. It's a lot.
I love that you've only played around 30 games and you were actually able to like recollect all of them throughout like your whole childhood. I think it's actually inspiring me now to try and go back and just see like if I can like recollect, because maybe a few hundred might be even like not accurate. But one thing that I wanted to touch on that you said was that I thought was super interesting was map editors. So from what I understand, Neverwinter Nights had a very comprehensive sort of like map editor and stuff like that. These actually left a lasting impression on me when I was gaming, from playing on like StarCraft custom maps to eventually Warcraft 3 custom maps. I think you know where I'm getting at here. There was one particular custom game that really stood out to me from Warcraft 3, a little bit of Dota. And I know that you said you played quite a bit of Dota 2 throughout your whole life. I also did as well. Started off from just playing it as a custom game on Warcraft 3 and then moved on to, Dota 2 standalone when that came out. And for a time, you can't deny that game is pretty special. It is pretty fun. It is pretty peak, but
it's
oof,
amazing. Yeah,
MOBAs. Yeah.
I skipped League, okay? I played a little bit of Heroes of the Storm. I played one game of Smite. I have on Steam about 13,000 hours in Dota 2. Okay? You know, my wife also has about 3,000. So I got her hooked on during high school as well. It is definitely a special game. I don't think it would be as special if it didn't have the pro scene attached. That was the first sport that I got super attached to. We would have parties for TI, so the international, and we would do brackets ourselves, and it was just always such a magical time. I'd take time off work to watch the international. And once I became an adult, right, it's like crazy. You know, why would you do this? But it was just, I don't. It was a mystical time, and I would always just get so happy. And if it was in China, I'd freaking stay up through the night, man. I'd get a whole bunch of different meals. Oh man, those were some days. I won't say they were the days because I have a pretty darn good life now, but I was fanatical about it, dude. And it takes a special type of game to do that to a person.
They were definitely some of the days of all time, and I
Definitely.
shared those days with you. I loved competitive Dota. There's a special thing about watching someone play a game that you're also playing with a group of people who are just as competent and just executing things at such a high level that I don't want to, say that you'll never be able to do this, but something that I could never ever do. Like I used to watch Pro StarCraft 2, same sort of thing. Like these people, their APM, their game knowledge, it's just far, far beyond what I will ever achieve. And I still to this day will go back and see like what was happening last international. I'm not following it as like currently as I do now, but I still really appreciate watching the game.
Do you have any pro teams that really stand out to you in the history of Dota 2?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like Navi was crazy back in the day. But like it almost feels like a lifetime ago, dude. Like I don't know. It's hard to say.
And so my dream was always to go to one of the tournaments, right? Right when I was really into it, probably when I was at my best, I was almost into what today's immortal tier. So I was in, the 99th percentile, even though I was nowhere near to pro. We got to go to MLG Columbus. And if anybody's like in the chat or watching this VOD, leave a comment if you remember MLG Columbus with freaking Arteezy and Arteezy standing in for Speed Gaming and Eternal Envy going absolutely berserk and pulling it out against freaking Burning. Oh my god. That I lost my voice like never before, okay? I've been to, sports games and, party, what. My voice was gone the next day. I was screaming at the top of my 14-year-old lungs. Unforgettable experience. I hope I'll get to go. Even though I'm not a huge fan now, I would definitely go if there was a tourney within driving distance again. That was peak. Really.
I've actually never.
Yep.
I feel like I do remember like that event happening. Obviously wasn't there at the time, but I never ended up making it to like any sort of like gaming event ever, and I really need to like actually make that happen. It's tough though because in NA in North America, we don't have a lot of those events popping off here. It's like, everything's happening in Europe and Asia. And my friends and I were actually supposed to go down to a Blast Major, which is a Counter-Strike event, the first ever North American one that was happening in Austin, Texas. And we logged in, on Ticketmaster, the second these tickets went on sale, and not 1 second passed, instantly sold out. Everything, the whole arena, just gone in a second, dude. We were like crushed, man.
No, that is rough. Scalpers are a freaking plague, and it's NA. NA is just so much more expensive compared to Asia and Europe for hosting these events. Maybe one day in the far-flung future, there will be more events here. We can only hope.
The one event that I got my eyes on going to would actually be ExileCon. I think that would be peak for me now.
I'm paying.
That's the one that I really want to go.
Dude, because that's a double. You get to meet all your fellow Path of Exile 2 lovers and haters. We're all lovers and haters at some point in our Path of Exile relationship. And New Zealand, It's double whammy. Who doesn't want to go to New Zealand, dude? Everybody wants to go and adventure there. So I'm going to make it happen if they ever do another ExileCon, which I really hope they will.
Yeah, I got a side little stash of a few coins tucked away for whenever that happens, you know?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to ask you, though, is so you're a very productive person. I'm just going to say that straight up. And, you know, you do a lot. And I think that, you know, a lot of us can recognize that, you know, not only are you, you know, streaming quite frequently, playing games, making content, you also have a job. You're an adult now. You're not grinding Dota 2 for 13,000 hours. How do you find balance doing all of these things that you do and wearing all these hats as you do?
Okay, number one thing, guys, if you wanna get something done, stop doom scrolling through social media. It is an absolute plague. You have to itemize your time like you itemize your campaign runs in Path of Exile 1. Okay? You just need to know what you're gonna do, have that plan, and actually commit to it. Don't be like, all right, I'm gonna make a video, okay? Oh, but I gotta scroll through like Reddit for, you know, like 15 minutes, because the 15 minutes turns into 30 minutes, and then the 30 minutes might turn into an hour, or maybe while you're reading Reddit, you know, something else will catch your attention, and everything, it'll just turn into a domino effect, and it will all go to absolute crap. I think that's the number one piece of advice I can give people, because I see this, okay? So I think I'm gonna be a little bit more, what's the right word? Straightforward with the audience that we have today going forward, because a lot of people are getting pretty crappy to each other, and I don't like that. I really don't like it, and I think a lot of it has to do with the effect that all the negativity and the spirals that occur on social media getting to people. You can really see a difference between someone who might spend, you know, 10 minutes looking for the updates on their favorite game or their favorite streamers or, you know, the news, right? Versus someone who spends multiple hours per day, like scrolling through social media. You can tell the difference, the way they communicate, the way they write, the stuff they talk about, like at work. I can tell what's happening. So that's my number one piece of advice. Just don't doom scroll. You know, set a plan, stick to the plan, and that's it. I'm not even kidding. It is not that complicated. You just have to be disciplined. That is the big thing.
That is the key word. That is the key word.
Dude, discipline, having a regimented plan is huge. You know, consistency is big, but also just making sure that you're hitting all the right marks. Like recently I took like a 2-week break, Blaze, and I was contemplating like just putting everything away and just stopping, because I was letting one of my pillars of my life, my like health, like fade away. And I'm not talking about mental health, oh my god, even though yes, I was mentally affected. It was like my physical health. Like I wasn't running consistently. I was getting like 2 workouts in, and they were, let's be honest, half-hearted crap workouts. Okay, I wasn't like pushing myself, and I could feel my body physically becoming worse ever since the launch in December for PoE 2. And it was because my discipline in one aspect of my life had faded, and it was starting to like affect other aspects of my life. You know, I was a little like snappier to my family, and I wasn't as attentive at work. And, you know, when I would get on a stream, right, I'd be a little bit more dejected, right? Because I wasn't getting enough exercise. And it's a lot to juggle all at once, but once you have that routine down and you're able to do it all well and focus on what really matters, which in my opinion, it's family, my actual job, my health, and then this, like content creation, you're good to go. Good to go. That was a long-winded answer. I'm sorry, Blaze, but I had a lot to say.
Don't be sorry, my friend. That is perfect. I think that, you know, as we all get older, we all, you know, have these responsibilities. We all have to manage our physical health, our mental health. And I feel like, you know, the more in the spotlight you are for whatever type of stuff you're doing, the harder it can be to sort of maintain that healthy and sort of that wellness. And so I'm super curious as to hear how people manage that. And I think it's very important to, you know, talk about it and share that insights. And I think, as you mentioned, discipline is something that we can all work on, no matter how disciplined you are. It's a muscle that you have to keep exercising. And yeah, like, for example, for myself, I just deleted all social media off my phone. I only have it on my computer, dude.
Nice.
Because, as we try to get more disciplined, I've noticed, like, if I don't have that on my phone, I'm just not using my phone ever, really. Like, I'll use it to check, emails or like a Discord message and stuff, but I'm not scrolling through Instagram. I'm not scrolling through whatever, like TikTok, Facebook. It's all, at home on the computer when I have time to. So just making those little changes for me has been like a huge like step for my own like productivity as well.
It's big, and it seeps into all aspects of your life because, all right, I know we're supposed to talk about Path of Exile too, but since we're discussing this place, one of the worst things ever in life, in society today, I kid you not, when my wife go out to a restaurant and eat, bro, all the couples or all the friends, they're on their phones, like just looking at their phones when they're sitting at a table with like other people. It's so, oh, guys, try this next time you go out to like eat with someone. I'm sorry if I'm calling you out right now, but it's so important. Cut it out. Seriously, engage with the person in front of you. Don't have any other distractions. Like right now, I'm talking to Blaze.
Hold on, man. One sec.
Oh no! I was gonna say. Oh my gosh, no. I knew. I thought I saw his eyes like going down when I was giving that long answer. I was like, oh, you're doing it right now, aren't you, dude? But seriously, I don't have social media open on my left screen. I have chat, but I've looked at chat once. I'm not playing PoE 2 while talking to you. I'm fully engaging with what I'm doing. I'm not half-assing it or anything. Sorry for swearing. I think that being in the moment and doing something, fully assing something, swearing again. Oh my god. Instead of just
as much as you want.
Awesome. All right. But just doing putting your all into something, I think is very important. So it kind of ties into the discipline thing. Have a strict regimen, and then when you're actively doing something, working on something, you're putting all your effort into it. And you're not clocking in, checking in, cashing a check, just grabbing a check and running anything, right? I think that's very important, and that's something that I've taken in all aspects of my life. And I make fun of people who do it, but it's honestly it's kind of sad, right? And I see people my age doing it. I see older people doing it. I'm sorry, mom, dad, mother-in-law, father-in-law, if you're listening, you guys do it way more than we do. And you always said, oh, you just play your computer all day. Oh my goodness gracious, you're addicted to that thing. And then I'll go out to eat with you guys and you pull out your phones at the dinner table. What are you doing? Come on, dad. Okay, my dad does it. Nah, I'm calling out my dad. Yeah, you pull it out, man. Why are you doing that? Come on. So yeah, fully engage in stuff. Important.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And this is something that, as I mentioned, is something that you just have to sort of consciously work at over time. You can't just snap your fingers and just be engaged in everything you do, especially when you've sort of developed these like bad habits, as you sort of put it, where like you're just constantly on your phone, checking it for whatever reason. Like whenever I deleted the, social media apps of choice off of my phone, there was a solid week where I was grabbing my phone and my thumb would just gravitate to the Instagram icon where it used to be on my home screen. And I would get to that point and I would be like, wait a minute, that's not there anymore. And then I would just put the phone down and just continue on what I was doing. Yeah. And it was crazy, how often my hand would just go to do that. So it takes a bit of work to sort of undo these habits. But as you mentioned, discipline, stay true to that discipline, set that schedule, and you can make these positive choices happen. And dude, I appreciate you being engaged. I'm trying my best to be engaged with this too. So I think we're doing great, man.
Yeah. Oh, let's keep going, Blaze. Let's keep doing it.
And to add to this, I know that this is supposed to be a Path of Exile 2 chat, but the life portion of this I think is actually very interesting as well. So, there has been so much talk about Path of Exile 2, and a lot of the opinions and a lot of things have already been said. We will get into that shortly, but I feel like it's refreshing to have a conversation with somebody just about whatever is interesting, and not necessarily having to be forced down that particular road. Yeah. But we're going to talk about that now.
Anyway. Yep, super interesting. Yep. Oh, look at that. Look at that arrogance meter. It's going high.
All right. So moving on. So we talked about your extreme productivity and your sort of your schedule and the way that you sort of handle yourself. The first ARPG you ever played, you said, was that Diablo 2?
It was Diablo 2, but man, if I'm being honest, I was very young. I don't remember completing it. The most I remember is like killing Mephisto and maybe getting my butt kicked by lightning by Diablo in hell. I don't think I ever killed like Baal. I vividly remember Ariel and Duriel. I think I fought those many times over, but I don't think I ever like actively engaged with the game because I was so young when it came out and when I was playing it. And my friends and I, we would like use, I think it was called Hero Editor or something, and you could make your own items and all that stuff. But we weren't. What is that a true player?
I remember that.
Right. Is that a true player? I don't know. If you'd like to count it as one, that's my first ARPG, Diablo 2. Yeah.
I feel like despite you maybe not beating the game, still you playing the game, that was your first ARPG, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how far you got or how good you did.
Yeah.
You know, that was the one. And it was a good one at that, because D2 is a banger, no matter how much you played it or how far you got. And so the interesting thing about Diablo 2 is that game directly inspired Path of Exile. So how much time did it go between you playing Diablo 2 to you actually getting your hands on Path of Exile?
All right. So I believe I played Diablo 2 last, maybe 2005. Yeah, around the age of 8, so like 2005. And then I was in Neverwinter Nights 2, Age of Mythology, Age of Empires phase, played some DDO. And then my friends all left DDO, Dungeons and Dragons Online, in 2012 when Diablo 3 came out. But I wasn't into those sort of games, so I never played Diablo 3 upon launch. I moved to Guild Wars 2 after Turbine couldn't restore my epic destinies on my maxed out character in DDO, and I got pissed, moved to Guild Wars 2, never looked back with my wife. And then, no ARPGs. Not even non-isometric. So, your Elden Rings, your Dark Souls. I didn't play any of those. And in 2019, November 14th, 2019, Blaze, I picked up Diablo 3 when my wife wasn't home. She was like up north doing something. And I played through Act 3 pretty rapidly. And I thought it was I thought the story wasn't dark. I wasn't entertained. I looked up games like Diablo 3. And I downloaded Path of Exile. And I logged in, and I became addicted. And the next day was ExileCon 1, and the Path of Exile 2 announcement. Literally, since that day onward, I have been a Grinding Gear Games fanboy, a Path of Exile enjoyer through thick and thin, and I've never really enjoyed another ARPG like PoE 1 until like PoE 2 came along.
What an incredible day to decide to download Path of Exile 1.
Wild,
it was
am I right?
meant to be, huh?
and the crazy thing is, this has never happened to me before, and I think I've told the story quite a few times. Downloaded game, played it a little bit, thought this was great. Next day I had to go to a school project, and I went to school, college, did the project, came back home. It was like 6 o'clock, made some dinner. My wife still wasn't home. She was still up north. And I logged in, 8 p.m., I'm playing. Oh, I'm enjoying it. No guides, by the way. Nothing. I'm just going through, which know nothing about this game. I look at the clock. It's 6 a.m. Oh my God. Bro, I was addicted to games before, but I was Dota 2. I was never so addicted that the time literally just faded away, and I was just immersed in the freaking game. I'm sitting there by myself in my apartment, blasting the hell out of Path of Exile on my rolling magma witch, not knowing what I'm doing. Yeah, it got me. It just got me. It was just something about that game, man. It was good.
You were having fun, which is what we all want out of video games at the end of the day, is to have fun, have time just melt away from us. And when we're not playing the game, thinking about how much fun we could be having playing that game. You know what I mean? That's what we all want.
Yeah. It was magical, honestly. And then, like I said, the whole ExileCon thing, Chris Wilson's speech. I've been playing for, less than 10 hours. Watch this guy who I don't even know get on stage. His voice cracks up. I start crying. I'm like, what what are these emotions that are taking hold of me right now? I don't even know you. I don't know your game, but oh man, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for GGG. What can I say?
Honestly, I can't blame you. Like for my own personal experience, GGG is just such a refreshing like take on the way that they like develop games is such a refreshing take on game development. For me, I come from the long lineage of, going through the golden era of Blizzard and watching sort of how they've, transformed from a once, being held as high as Grinding Gear Games is in my own personal view now to some company that, just they've fallen out of grace, right? And so I have a little bit of baggage when it comes to game developers. But discovering Path of Exile and discovering Grinding Your Games, it kind of like it makes you realize how spoiled in a good way the fans and the players of Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 are, because these guys, there's not many other companies like Grinding Your Games. It's crazy how transparent they are, how player focused and player driven they are. And you know what? I'm going to sound like the biggest, Grinding Gear Games glazer out there, but they're a special company, man, and it's pretty great that we get to be able to play this game that they're making that they love so much, man.
Yeah, I come from Dota 2 with Valve and Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet, and then Turbine and DDO. Man, all these Valve like shadow drops updates. It was crazy. No cadence, no expectation. Even if we're just talking purely about like Path of Exile 1, not even talking about PoE 2, night and day. Even during the Lake of Kalandra which I think was the worst era for PoE 1. Man, they weren't silent. They didn't go radio silent until long after. They were in the trenches talking all about how, okay, well, this is why we did this, and we're going to defend it to the death, even if we're wrong, right? It was so refreshing coming from those other games because it really seemed like the devs cared what the players thought. And today, right, I still get that sense, but I think a little bit of the magic has been lost because that community interaction has faded. Okay, and I say this as someone who has been extraordinarily lucky, to speak with GGG, to go out to events and everything. I still can see it's for the vast majority of the community, that interaction's gone. There's not Bex in the comments of Reddit threads posting memes anymore. There's not a whole bunch of playful, Twitter sparrings with various developers. You don't have Chris coming onto the forums anymore, right? That's all gone. So I can feel like why the vast majority of the community thinks that magic is gone, right? But I think there's still hope for the future, and I still think that looking at other games, right, and their communities and their developers, we still have it quite good. We just want it to be better. Like we saw how amazing it was when it was at its peak, and we want to return to that, or at least many veterans do. I think the new players to PoE 2 were the best people who received PoE 2. One bars down. Problems at all. And it has problems. But these people who didn't have the preconceived notions of how GGG acted with like Path of Exile 1 and all that, they love Path of Exile 2. All my friends refused to try Path of Exile 1, freaking love Path of Exile 2. Played it way more than I have, right? And I think there's something in that. There really is.
Absolutely. I mean, that is me. I never got into Path of Exile 1. I played it for maybe a couple dozen hours, if that. And yeah, it just feels like, as you just mentioned, coming from a different, having some baggage and coming from, over from the Blizzard side of things, I feel like maybe I was targeted a little bit, but it feels like, GGG, from my perspective, still has, the relationship with the players sort of in the forefront of, from what I've seen, and I only can speak upon what I've seen, and I haven't been following them since the Path of Exile 1 days, but, for example, doing the Zizaran interview after the reception to Dawn of the Hunt, literally like the next day or the day after the patch came out, like that took some balls. Like, you could see it in Jonathan's reactions, like how he was taking the feedback and stuff like that. Like, if they didn't care, I don't think that they would put themselves in positions such as that. Like, that was pretty commendable, and that was like one of the best interviews that they've done. And you know, just stuff like that. Like, I'm coming from the mindset of like Blizzard. They released a class in their newest expansion in Diablo 4 called the Spiritborn. Absolutely broken, absolutely busted. Did they talk about it or fix it? Not for like 3 months, dude. It was just like, it'll have its time in the spotlight. It'll be just busted. It'll be fine. So it's just like, you know, it's so black and white, as you said. And I understand that, you know, GGG has probably changed their ways and they may not be as involved in the forums and on Twitter and stuff like that, but they're still doing stuff that like the majority of developers don't really do.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point with the Zizern interview and Jonathan and Mark, but especially Jonathan. I absolutely despise how he's being raked over the coals, and people already think that I'm the biggest Jonathan fanboy. Come at me. Go for it. I'm spitting the truth, guys. The dude's been he founded GGG with Chris Wilson. Okay? He's not a new person who's coming into what do people say? What is it? To grift people with Path of Exile 2, you know? Oh my gosh, I see the success of like another game and I'm going to try to just cash it. No. Dude worked on he wrote the freaking engine that Path of Exile plays on. Dude loves Path of Exile 1. He really wants to make a great game with Path of Exile 2. And the dude is passionate as all hell. He's very intelligent. You know, when you speak to him, he does the same thing. He fully engages in that crap, right? He is in the conversation. He's analyzing like every word you're saying and trying to understand it in his own unique way. He's not trying to just completely curb stomp everybody's thoughts on the game or just rampage over them with his own vision. So many times he said, no, if my vision's bad, my vision will change. The game will change to suit what the players would like to a certain extent. And that's the key phrase there. I think that games today, whether it's Path of Exile 2, whether it's Diablo 4, Last Epoch, Expedition 33, all of them need this clear vision. They need this guiding light, or else they're going to turn into an absolute maelstrom of chaos. Haha, Path of Exile, one reference for those of you out there. And the game will just completely collapse. You can't have just, okay, well, the players want this, so we're just going to do that. And then, oh, actually the devs want this, so we're going to throw that in. You need to have a coherent vision to the game. And he does bring that to the table. And everybody's saying, throw out Jonathan, screw Jonathan. It's so short-sighted. It just makes me upset. Especially seeing how they've been reacting to a lot of the changes as of late. And I know that I see chat moving. I'm not looking at chat. I just see boop, 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 boop. I know people have lots of opinions on this. But I'm standing firm. It's the same kind of with Chris Wilson. So Blaze, you said you never got into Path of Exile 1, right?
Correct. Yeah, I am very much so the way that you described those people that love Path of Exile 2. I've tried to get into Path of Exile 1 quite a few times. Diablo 2 up to this point has been my favorite game of all time, as you had mentioned that like Neverwinter Nights and you know, those titles were the favorite games of your childhood. Diablo 2 was mine. I played the shit out of that game for so long. I still go back and play it every year just because I love it. The music, everything, it's so good. But I haven't felt the way that I felt playing an ARPG, the way that I felt playing Diablo 2 until Path of Exile 2 came along. Like it's like the perfect sequel to that game, I would say. And where I got lost in Path of Exile 1 was, I think, the same story that a lot of people have, where it felt like everything I was doing in the game was a mistake because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I was leaving the game constantly to learn what I was supposed to be doing instead of playing the game, learning what I was supposed to be doing. It felt like I had to seek external help a lot. Whereas with Path of Exile 2, I feel like they've really nailed that new player experience, so much so that you can learn the entirety of the game for the most part until you have to, you know, get into really complicated things in the game and stay within the game to learn that. And so that was sort of that was how they got me. That was how they own my soul now, is because they kept me in there for as long as possible, you know?
And that was a huge pain point that they were trying to address in Path of Exile 2. And it sounds like not just for yourself, but for many others that has been solved, even though There's, of course, still quite some time to go. I think like the skill gem system, the guides there, the added tooltips, all that is so good. And with like the whole Jonathan Chris Wilson thing, you won't know because you didn't play PoE 1, but Jonathan Rogers is to PoE 2 as Chris Wilson was to Path of Exile 1. He was the face of Path of Exile 1. You say PoE 1 and you picture this bald dude who, you know, is just giving you a little smirk at the camera, and he can talk really fast. He's quite charismatic. If he doesn't know something, he owns up to it. You know, sometimes he'll have devs in the room. Like, dude was an absolute amazing guy. Very much like Jonathan. And people hated him when he was the head. They blamed him for everything. And I think they will never admit this. Grinding Gear Games will never admit this. Chris will never admit this. No one will ever. They chased him out of the community. Like, when he resigned finally a few months ago, Blaze, it was so sad. You go back into his comment history and you see the second to last time he posted on Reddit was a spur of combats during this one patch in Path of Exile 1, where he, you know, the team made some significant changes and some of them were bad changes. And he went to the bat for his team. He was that type of leader, the leader that I want to be. In public, you know what I always do first and foremost? I always go to bat for my team, right? I always put all my faith in my team, and in public, I will defend them to the death. You know, snap, right? Even if it might be the wrong thing. And, you know, afterwards you go, you investigate. And if you were wrong, if they were wrong, you make a public statement, you make it right. That's basically what happened with Chris. That was his last interaction with the community, except in my team, at my company of 50 people, if we make a mistake, you know, we just have some heated discussions with shareholders. With this, you get death threats. You get threats of physical violence. You get all this crap thrown, and it must have been so mentally taxing. So of course he took his payday and peaced out, dude. He probably made millions of dollars, made one of the, you know, Titans to rival Blizzard and everything, and he can just ride off into the sunset without needing to worry about it anymore. Although, you know, I like to think perhaps it's just, you know, me trying to dream up a reality that's not there, but I like to think that he really wanted to stay, but it was too taxing on him, you know, as he was staying on this project for so long and getting so involved that he was just like, you know, it's time to step back. So I do miss him. He was great. Hopefully we hear from him again in like a future game project that's a little less stressful than Path of Exile 2, but they definitely crafted something special with both games here. Definitely.
His departure from Grinding Gear Games felt very symbolic that they had moved into a new era in the company, and they have, you know, with the release of Path of Exile 2 and the stepping down of Chris Wilson, who, as you mentioned, was the face of Path of Exile for the longest time, it does feel like they're sort of transitioning into like Grinding Gear Games 2.0 with, you know, having these two titles under their belts, and for better or for worse, you know, Chris Wilson isn't going to be a part of that update patch. I will speak for myself. If I ever made a video game company and Tencent bought my owning share of it for however many dollars, I would be very happy with that choice, regardless of having, you know, that blood, sweat, and tears being put into that game, and, you know, having that emotional attachment. That is one of the best exit strategies that you could ask for. And so for me personally, I'd be happy with just, you know, at the end of the day, you know, he got taken care of, right?
100%. The only, I don't know, it's so weird, isn't it? This, what is it called? What is it when you have a connection with like a social media celebrity? It's escaping my mind right now. Parasocial. Freaking like parasocial relationship with him. It's like, you know, he was so prominent, and then he disappeared without saying a word. He just went radio silent after, you know, every single announcement, went on all the podcasts, was typing on, and then he just, boop, he's gone. Never to be heard from again. It's like ominous, and it's kind of scary how that can just happen. It's like, I did a really bad thing when his departure was announced. I wrote like, oh, Chris Wilson is gone. And I put a freaking gravestone on the thumbnail for 2 minutes. I got so many mad comments thinking that he was dead, right? And I didn't think twice about it. I was like, oh, of course, this is terrible, right? So I removed the gravestone from the thumbnail because I was not intending that. But after I did it, I like thought in my head, man, it is almost like he just literally died from all of our lives. Like of course he's out living his best life, but man, he just died. He's dead. Where did he go? It's crazy to think about, you know? Yeah, it's weird. Sorry, had to get that out there.
No, I get it, man. I feel like, you probably aren't alone in feeling that sort of connection with him, especially, enjoying the game as much as you do. And I don't think that it's wrong necessarily to feel that way. And it kind of feels a bit strange that there was never a public announcement from GGG saying, this is from him or from the company saying exactly what happened. It's like if a girl dumps you and instead of her just leaving and never talking to you again, she at least sends you a little closure text message or something like that, being like, hey, it's not working out for me. I wish you the best of luck. Peace out. Instead of just being like radio silence, she just dipped. I don't know what she was thinking. Was it me? Was it her? It leaves a lot to be, questioned, right? And
Oh yeah,
it's taxing mentally.
I'm wondering if, okay, so Blaze, you know how like the doomerism surrounding PoE2 is like here? I think if Chris Wilson had a goodbye post, the doomerism for all of PoE would just be like up here if that happened. I think it would be like, it's so over, those posts, it would be circulating because people are already, pretty spooked. Okay, pre today. I don't know if you're looking at like social media. I looked at a little bit of social media. People are like, woo, woo, PoE 1 update, let's go. They're very happy. But up until now, ever since Dawn of the Hunt, day 4, I think it's been very upset, skeptical, scared, any synonym or adjective that relates to being frightened of the future community so far. And I think that if that would have came out after this, would have been bad. I'm curious because a few other high up devs also announced that they have left the company about 2 weeks ago, a month ago. Hrishi and the skills guy, Rory Rackham. He announced he was leaving as well. I wonder if Chris almost thought like, I'll do one last favor and not do that to GGG because I feel like it would be disastrous for them. So I'm just gonna fade out. Maybe there will be a statement at some point. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll never know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like they did him dirty by just like the silent exit and the silent just peace out. But we won't know how the community would have received that message and in what way they would have sort of wrote that or did that. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to hold out. And if that ever happens, I think it'd be cool for the community to sort of get a little bit of that closure. I think that's always good. Yeah, I don't know, man. But yeah, so moving on to just as you mentioned, the reception of Path of Exile 2. Quite simply put, right now, what are your thoughts on the game? Are you having fun with it? Have you moved on? Have you stopped playing it? Where are you at?
Yeah, so I'll preface everything with how I play the game. I do not get a lot of playtime. Almost half my playtime was in that first weekend. I have a lot of other responsibilities, as we talked about. So I have one character, level 88 or 89, Amazon. Ended up on a mix of Lightning Spear and Primal Strikes with some other stuff in between, Stormlance and everything. I didn't follow any build guide or anything. I stumbled upon it myself. I looked at Flubgun's version of it. Mine is very crappy, but it's mine, so I'm going to keep it that way for now. Almost at Arbiter of Ash. I have all the Citadels ready to go. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Dawn of the Hunt. But, as I said, not blasting, not playing the economy, not racing anybody else, not, being a speedster. I'm not zooming through anything. It's all at my own leisure. I'm not going super hard into anything. I'm just taking the game as it comes and enjoying myself. I'm not burning myself out or anything like that. So I've very much enjoyed my time. I was one of those people, I'm sorry, who was, I'll admit, like gaslighty on day 1 and 2 when I was playing, because I literally felt like the campaign felt like 0.1 to myself. Like everything felt, much tankier and everything as that first playthrough. And I thought, yeah, it's basically like 0.1 first playthrough. There's nothing different. And then Juju's like, No, actually, white monsters that are rare monster minions are way tankier than they should be, and this is way tankier, and all those changes came out. But I was enjoying myself because I don't like Dark Souls games, guys, but I did like the added Path of Exile too. So I very much enjoyed myself, and every single patch so far has just made the game better and better, quality of life wise, gameplay wise, system wise, which is great. The only and 020 is how I imagined early access would look for Path of Exile 2, except the lack of balance patches. I'm shocked that they're not doing minor patches to address not even the overperformers, honestly, but maybe to just raise the floor of the underperformance, not by, huge swings, so you don't have a typical ARPG problem of something getting everything being way overbuffed, right? And overtuned. Just, 10% here, 5% here. What they did with Lightning Spear in the first week of the league, where they buffed it by, 5 to 7%. I'm shocked that's not happening at the cadence that they're releasing these awesome quality of life patches and gameplay patches, but maybe they'll change their philosophy on that.
It feels like they are very aware of how the community sort of responded to the, I want to say, negative changes or impactful changes that players felt were negative in terms of their power and in terms of their enjoyment and fun of the game. And so right now they're exceptionally conscious of any sort of change that's going to result in the same sort of reaction, I guess, like that, which I personally don't agree with. I'm definitely on the side of, guys, you should just be changing stuff as constantly as you want to make the game better and get the game in a better state faster, essentially. But it just seems like right now they're very worried about, the backlash for any sort of changes. Oh, respecs aren't free and it's early access, and there's so many reasons why people have a reason to be mad about something with Path of Exile. But I think in general, I was also surprised as well that they didn't just alongside those quality of life improvements, which have been fantastic, the loot drops. Oh my God, I've been playing SSF this whole Dawn of the Hunt, and it's completely changed how it feels to play SSF. It's on the table now, even though I got to level 93 before the loot patch even came out. But I'm surprised to see that they didn't do any sort of balance changes as well.
You're totally on point. And you said I could swear on the pod, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fucking A.
Okay, there you go. Okay. You're right that they are hyper cognizant of the backlash that occurs from not just the community, but from creators in the space as well. There was a big debate, the past, it's been a month and a half now where the game has been out. And there are various sides, and I think that the most vocal section of the community, honestly, is the 5% of the community that hates the game. They do not like it. They don't like the direction. They think it's a terrible game. It doesn't matter if they think that they played Path of Exile 1 and they really enjoyed that game, or if they've only played PoE 2 and they just hate it but are still playing it for some reason. And they are the most vocal, okay? They are not key. They are not the people who are going onto Reddit and writing well thought out feedback for the devs. They are not the people who are going to Steam leaving negative reviews about what they didn't enjoy about the game in a cohesive manner. They're not those folks. They are the people who are calling anybody who enjoys the game names, who are saying the game is complete dog shit and this is the worst ARPG experience they've ever played, and how GG needs to go back to the drawing boards, and why the fuck would they make this instead of just iterating on Path of Exile 1? These fucking idiots, right? And, I won't name any names, but a lot of content creators fall into that bucket. And that's a fucking shame. It really is, right? When you pride yourself on, when I pride myself, when I create content, on being a good communicator. I really try to communicate well. Sometimes, many times, I think people see my professionalism to come off as being glazing, or me just being very positive toward the devs. Toxically positive is a phrase I see often in my comments, when that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be productive and coherent in my feedback and how I speak with the developers. because I like to respect other people. I like to respect those I'm talking to. And even those people who I very firmly disagree with, like the people I'm talking about now, I'm not putting words in their mouth. I'm just repeating things that they have literally said. And a lot of content creators don't do that. They like to bolster this attitude. And a few people did talk about it in the days after launch. Lots of folks like myself who enjoy the game are called shills. In actuality, the people who are shills are those who jump on the hate bandwagon, because you know what the most popular Path of Exile 2 videos ever, all time right now, are? The ones hating on Dawn of the Hunt. The compilations of streamers calling the game dog shit, saying this is the worst ARPG they've ever played. Ad infinitum. Like, it was just vomited hate over and over. Everybody was leaping onto it. They were sharing it. I'm sure people, were laughing. Some people were joking. A lot of people were playing up to the hate for those clicks and for other reasons. But I hate that. I hate that so much, Blaze. And I have decided, in the past week and a half or so, I have a fucking medium-sized soapbox to stand on now, and I can actually speak out against that and try to combat that sort of disgusting attitude I see in the community. And I have been doing that. It's very nice. It's very refreshing, because you know what? There is a huge cadre of people who aren't like that and can give good critique and do enjoy the game, and they understand that there are problems, and they can communicate what the problems are in a reasoned manner, and they don't need to be just dunking on the devs and anyone who likes certain aspects of the game. They can just say, yeah, no, this part of the game is terrible. What were the devs thinking? Here's what I think would be better, or here's just the problem. What's going on? Let's improve this. And you can see it evident in the comments of my latest video where they're releasing the quality of life patch. Have you seen it yet? The notes? It's all good changes, bro.
I listened to it while I was doing the dishes. I listened to you break it down.
I read that and I'm like, well, I don't have anything to complain about. I mean, good patch. I wish there were balance changes, right? But all the changes, it's good. They're moving in the right direction. Last patch was a week and a half ago. They're keeping the cadence, and then they closed the notes with, "We're already working on the next patch, by the way. We're going." And I'm like, that's good. 50% of the fucking comment section is bitching about the game and how bad it is and how bad the devs are and why the fuck are you still covering this stupid game? Oh my god, guys. What? And then last little bit.
I think we go full circle here, though. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
go
but
for it.
As we just talked about, they're hyper cognizant of the community's sort of feedback towards the game, and we're no strangers to the fact that there has been an outpouring of negative feedback about certain things about the game, who, quite frankly, I disagree with, and I think that you probably disagree with a lot of it as well. But for some reason, it just seems like, they're trying to avoid all of that as much as they can. But quite frankly, I think it's impossible. They shouldn't be designing and developing this game based on trying to appeal to these, as you mentioned, very loud-mouthed 5% of the player base who is just going to be shitting on the game constantly, no matter what, anyways. And so, how do they get past that? You know what I mean? How do they move forward with that?
They have to filter through the good and bad feedback. So there's a huge difference between the feedback that I'm talking about that gets pushed to the top, right? And that might sound really odd because the feedback that gets the push to the top and gets the most views and likes, that's the stuff you want to pay attention to, right? I think wrong, okay? Because a lot of that is the most, even my, I'll even say even my stuff, I don't think my content is that deep a lot of the time. I'm not diving into the deep game mechanics. I'm just talking about, news in the game, how I'm enjoying the game, trying to pull together, other people's opinions and try to highlight those. I've been shouting him out a lot. I'll shout him out again. Off Meta Michael, okay? He has been doing great bite-sized feedback videos, diving into the specific systems of the game and making videos on that in a constructive manner. He thinks something is bad, he'll talk about why it's bad, and then he'll give what he thinks would be better. That's good. Not PoE2 dog shit, this is the worst game I've ever played, and then that's it. And then that gets, 300,000 views or something, right? A lot of the Steam reviews that I talked about, it's PoE2 is mostly negative right now. Recent reviews on Steam. There's a kitty on my lap. Hello, kitty. A lot of those reviews are good. They're like, okay, so here's my pain points with the game. They point out, that the problems that there were with monsters early on. They talk about how loot was poor. All these things were addressed. They're being worked on, right? All those are good. I think grinding your games can do a really good job of picking out the right feedback and working on that. But at the same time, Blaze, they're scared of what the perception is like for the game. Because here you go. I'll out myself. Sorry, guys. We don't need to talk about politics. I am still an admin enjoyer, and I'm in his subreddit. Yes, I've been banned from many other subreddits. One of the top threads in his subreddit lately was highlighting, it was like, what happened? And it was Path of Exile 2, mostly negative. Diablo 4, mostly positive. And all the comments were like, yeah, they just broke the game. There's zero loot. And this was yesterday. Zero loot in the game. Nothing. All the monsters are super tanky. You can't do anything. It's basically like a Dark Souls, and you can't get past Act 1. And that was the highest upvoted comment. That's the perception. And that's what grinding your games is like trying to avoid. They're trying to carefully balance making big swings and big changes while risking the entire perception of the game being fogged up, this window being fogged up by some really loud voices that call their game dog shit and say all these things that I think are untrue and completely blown out of proportion. It's tough. I don't envy them. I wanted to be a game developer when I was younger. I don't know. Maybe not for any semi-competitive community like ARPGs or MOBAs are, right, man? Because those are the most passionate players. You look at the reception, and it is I'm only in Act 2. It's a masterpiece. Claire Obscura Expedition 33. You see the reception to that, and to be frank, I haven't ran into any bugs or anything, so it's a very well polished game. But you look at the reception to that, and it's night and day compared to a Path of Exile 1 League fully released game. I want to compare fully released to a fully released game, not early access to Claire Obscura. But you look at the reception to a Path of Exile 1 League or Diablo 4 expansion or a Dota 2 update, night and day compared to Claire Obscura. So if you're going into game development, maybe think about the genre you're going in,
Absolutely. I think that, as you mentioned, it's incredibly challenging to develop a game. I'm not a game dev. You never became a game dev. We don't know exactly how difficult it is, but I would go as far as saying that the era of time that we live in right now in game development has got to be one of the hardest times to make video games for, because of this sort of chamber of feedback that can echo throughout the world try instantly. Basically, one or two content creators who have an enormous audience can say something about a game in a positive or negative light, and that can echo throughout the entire community of the people playing the game, basically. And so, I think that's impacted Grinding Gear Games' decision to, include more balancing than they should, or include some balancing where they should or shouldn't. And I don't envy them at all. I feel like it must be incredibly challenging. As you said, ARPG, the community, incredibly passionate. I don't know any other community that is as passionate about games as the ARPG community, for good or for better, and for worse as well.
Yeah, definitely.
What's up, bro?
Goodness.
Yeah. How are you doing? I wanted to check in with you. Yeah, I know you said you only had an hour. I feel like
I'm fine.
We're at an hour.
I had someone come to the door, but then she texted me, so I'm good. I'm good to keep going. If you're good to keep going a little longer.
I would love to.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm good for as long as you are. I have all the time in the world, so you just let me know. We'll try and go on for maybe a couple more questions.
Yeah,
here.
Sounds great, man. Sorry,
but
I know
do
my
want to
answers.
Take this time.
I know my answers get a little rambly, but I am talkative, so I do like to elaborate and give as full a response as possible, and not just zoom through anything. So
there's not an ounce of surprise on me to see that Talkative Try is enjoying talking about a game as passionate, and he's as passionate about as Path of Exile. There's no surprise, and I love all of it. So this is great. Thank you again for taking the time.
Oh, 100%, man.
Been awesome. Yeah. So Grinding Gear Games, we've talked about Path of Exile 2. You've talked about your sort of opinion on the game as a whole. You haven't been playing a whole lot of it. You basically played the majority of your time in point one during the initial launch of the game into early access, essentially. Let's move on to a little bit of stuff that I think is a little bit more lighthearted.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you about the Druid. I know that from basically hearing you talk about stuff, I remember before the Dawn of the Hunt even like was released, you were like, but the Druid, right? Where's the Druid announcement? They're dropping the Druid, right? And then, the Huntress was there. Druid wasn't there. Can you explain to me a little bit about your relationship to the Druid class and why you are so excited to see that in the game?
Bro, I just wanted the big bear. I just wanted. Okay, but seriously, I literally made an apology video because I bamboozled myself. Okay, I was so convinced the Druid was coming out. I saw it in all the teasers. It was obviously it didn't come out, but like, what a like just a study in being able to dupe yourself, because I would see signs in every teaser that GGG released and all their little messages and oh yeah, the Druids all 100%. Oh, there's 2 people in the Huntress trailer. Oh, that's because the other person is the Druid. No, it was freaking Dolman or whatever the hell. Oh my god. Okay, Druids.
The copium was high. The copium was very high.
Bro, and I was wrong. And I fully admit I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, I made a commitment to our lovely community. I will not basically promise anything ever again, because I was so sure on the Druid and I was wrong. Okay, but past that, okay. I've always like gravitated toward those sort of classes, at least trying them out in games, whether that's Dungeons and Dragons pen and paper or DDO or like Guild Wars 2 with the Ranger and their companions. But no game has ever hit the fantasy for me. The fantasy is super appealing, but they all fall flat. And the moment I saw that bear lift up its hind legs and rampage across that bridge in the ExileCon 2023 trailer, just the sound effects, the animations, I could feel the weight as if my hands were on the keyboard and I was WASDing the bear, even though it wasn't even in the game at that point. I could feel myself controlling him. Oh my gosh, I was sold. I was just sold. It looked so good. It sounded great. And I'm ready for it. And we know that there's going to be a secret third form. We don't know what it is. We know we're getting a wolf. We know we're getting a bear. There's going to be a secret like third core form. It's something that I don't feel like current. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to throw shade, but like current day ARPGs, Last Epoch and Diablo 4, I just don't feel like they hit it. Like, I played Druid in D4 and it felt like cartoony, almost like comical, I guess is a good way to put it, and almost weightless. And in Last Epoch, it just doesn't even look appealing. Like, I haven't even given it a go. So I really hope that GGG delivers that fantasy with the Druid. I well expect it to hit in 2032 around patch, like 0.17 or something. We'll see though. I'm holding out hope for the Druid eventually.
All right, I had to ask because I know that you just, you got a little ahead of yourself with the Druid. You were so excited. You loved I guess, the way that they had presented the class, and I do have to agree with you. Like, there hasn't been too many games where you're like presented with the opportunity to like shapeshift and cast spells and have minions and all of these different things. Going back to our previous talk about Diablo 2, I think that was sort of my favorite way to play the Druid. That was the first time that I ever got to experiment with that. And I feel like you're absolutely right. There hasn't been a game that's sort of like actually nailed what is a pretty complicated class for a lot of reasons. But, within the current meta of like Path of Exile 2, do you even think, and this is very hypothetical, do you even think that the Druid would be strong in the current meta right now that we find ourselves in the Lightning Spear, energy shield evasion meta, do you think that a big ass bear who's probably relying on armor and some slow ass attacks would be actually strong?
Okay, first of all, for the people implying that I'm like a furry or something, I am the most milquetoast dude you've ever seen. I'm not talking about those hind legs sexually. I'm saying the animations just looked great. Okay, so let's just clear that out first and foremost. Second, Jesus Christ. Second, I could see like the rampage ability being meta. So that's the one where he's, charging across and creating those little slams where his feet hit. I could see you scaling up those little slams on the ground to ridiculous proportions and having each of those slams like clear a pack at once. Like I feel like that'd be super cool.
Aftershocks or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and some sort, I'm sure you could probably also automate some sort of cast on setup with that run. So if you can maintain, at least if it was built the same as in the 2023 demo, if you could maintain the rage generation and keep up that rampage, you could just be cast on like, I don't know, like lightning storm or something as you're just running through the map. It would be a way more badass version of righteous fire, which is a Path of Exile one skill beloved by many, where you just, it's a circle around you and it just kills stuff. It would be way more satisfying, way more weighty, and I'd love to see it. I would also like to see them fulfill that, vision, that fantasy of comboing multiple things together. And I do think like shape shifting and the druid would be a stellar way or a stellar time to actually hit that fantasy for a larger part of the player base. I talked to Snoobe85 a few days ago, or like a week ago, and he was playing the Huntress until he got to his character's final form, much like that, where he's using multiple abilities, he's weaving in and out like they intended. It's not lightning spear, but it's still powerful, and it's within the vision until you get to that final form, of which he spent like 90 hours perfecting the character, which at that point, yeah, probably one button.
Right. Yes. No. And I don't think that there's an issue with basically playing the game up to a certain point, having to kind of find those beautiful synergies of spells and press a few keys to have to actually do the work until you actually get to that godlike sort of level of power, and then you're literally just left clicking and everything dies. So yeah, I don't know. Well, I just an interesting question. I would love to see where the druid would fit in the meta right now, but we'll have to wait and see. Yep. Do you think though, next patch, 0.3, Dawn of the Druid? Am I getting your? Am I 0%?
Dude, no. I think they ran into a tinfoil hat. I think they ran into a technical snafu. I think this was publicized before PoE2 came out, that the WASD implementation with the Druid forums was kind of whack with animations. Right. And I don't think they've perfected that. And we all know, especially with classes, the initial skill gem set, Jonathan likes to try to get them perfect. Now with parry, there may be a little bit grappling with the perfection fact there, but I don't think Druid is in a good enough state internally, and it might be pushed along for something easier like swords and the duelist, or axes and the marauder, or even the shadow and daggers and traps. There's also that other part of me that's thinking like, oh, lots of people are anticipating Druid. Maybe they want to save that for, I'm going to be a bigger patch, like, maybe Christmas 2025, where they're going to sell new supporter packs and it's going to have a Druid MTX. Yeah, something like that. I'm not trying to give GGG ideas. I'm just trying to be a savvy business person. I wouldn't do that though, guys. I just released the Druid. Okay, it's not happening. I won't wait for the MTX pack. Push it out there.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I think from what I've heard, essentially like their preview of the Druid and from the Huntress they were at sort of like the 90% mark, and then what they had to do with the Huntress essentially was they had to go back and redo everything. So one can only assume that after they had to do that with the Huntress, and maybe they were trying to implement something complicated like the parry system, which didn't really go off very well in this new patch. I don't know if you had a chance to try it, but it just seems redundant.
I stopped using it in Act 2. Yeah, Act 3. So.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe it was back to the drawing board with the druid for some things that they wanted to take advantage of or look at in a better way. And I honestly think that they might end up taking parry out or completely having to rework that again. It almost felt like Mark was the one who convinced Jonathan it could work, because Jonathan had said multiple times, this can never work in an ARPG. It can work in Dark Souls because you're fighting like 2 or 3 monsters at a time, but in ARPGs you're surrounded half the time. How is it going to work?
I think
How's
it can work in
Mark?
like very niche scenarios, and I feel like that's it has a place for those who are willing to interact with it. And I do like that it's in the game. I think it's just because it was the new thing added to the game, and it's one of, let's face it, like a smaller playing field in the game, that there's hyper focus on it. But imagine you have all 12 classes in the game, you have all these different archetypes and fantasies to fulfill, all these different weapons, and parry is just a part of them. I do feel like there are people who are engaging with it and using it, and it will have a place eventually. It's just being the highlight of a patch. It's just not it. Same with like maces and the initial 010 launch, them being the only melee weapon besides quarterstaff in the monk fantasy, is kind of rough. I think just maces in general. Like eventually there's going to be swords, axes, daggers, flails, and maces will fulfill a very niche part of this game fantasy that some people enjoy, but lots of people really dislike. It's just, a matter of what they prioritized, right? So I think with more tuning, parry will be okay. And even now, like in certain boss fights, man, it's busted. Even in endgame, if your map doesn't have like 30% increased monster attack speed, cast speed, right, you can parry some pretty big attacks from map bosses, right, if you're using a buckler. But everywhere else, like packs, I don't freaking know. That's like, yeah, that's rough.
Well, essentially, from what I understand, the parry mechanic is basically used to get like charges. Like that's like the core functionality of it. And so I don't know why I would ever choose to use that when I could just use like,
Mark, something.
Friends, what's it called? Combat Frenzy.
Combat Frenzy.
Like I'm using elemental damage for most of my abilities in some respects anyways. So that's fulfilling what the parry functionality does, but passively anyway. So it just seems like, they hadn't really thought of more functionality for parry aside from just getting those charges up.
And like the campaign just blocking stuff. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I've like read comments of people saying that it's really strong in endgame, but like very few. This isn't a lot, right? But I've never seen it in practice, and just imagining it, I don't understand. Maybe if you're heavily investing in the tree and everything, maybe it becomes powerful defensively, but I just don't see it. Especially when a lot of the time the best defense is a good offense and a very light defense.
For sure.
Some energy shield.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I wanted to ask you sort of one more question. I wanted to sort of tie things back to sort of when we first started talking about the stuff. So one thing that I sort of wanted to ask you that I didn't get to talk to you about at the beginning was sort of what were some sort of pivotal moments for you in your content creation or gaming sort of streaming career that you could describe for me? Something that really made you think, wow, like I've come so far, or I can't believe I'm talking to this person, or maybe just give us like an example of that or a few examples of that. That'd be super cool.
A few examples. Oh, I have a lot of examples, man. Oh, crap. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go chronologically, I guess.
Sure.
So actually today is the 2-year anniversary of my channel gaining some steam. So I had my channel quite a decent chunk before it actually got traction. I was hovering around like 100 subs for a year or something. And my videos just get, a few hundred views here and there. And I've told the full story so many times, so I won't go into all the details, but I made a video called The Curious Silence about Path of Exile 2, and I thought it would do well, so I posted it. Man, it's so bad if you go look like the audio and everything. It's so bad, dude. I posted it to Reddit. Wake up in the morning, I go check the Reddit post. It's at negative like 30 downvotes. I'm like, okay, F my life, whatever. I thought this was good. And then I go to YouTube Studio a few hours later, and it's at 15,000 views. And like my best video before that had a few hundred. And I'm like, oh my God. The algo picked it, and people loved it on YouTube. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is great. And then, bro, I just watched the algorithm pick it up, and it climbed and climbed and climbed, and it's at like, 45,000, 50,000 views. And then I get a text at like 11:30 p.m. from my friend, my coworker, who's also my friend, and he's like, "Dude, you're on Asmon's stream right now." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm on Asmon? I'm not on Asmon's stream. I'm playing Path." And he's like, "No, you're like, he's what? I hear your voice, man. That's you, right?" And I go, and I go to the stream, and oh my god, he's reacting to my freaking video, dude. My first blow up video, it landed around like 111,000 views, and I told myself, oh my god, this is I can't let this slip, right? A lot of people, I feel like, think, okay, well, it's, one off, the algorithm magic just took it. Okay, let's just, cool. I said, hell no. I wanna make this work. So I started putting out 2 videos a week. I had like a strategy going, and it just picked up from there. I started May 2023 posting 2 videos a week at least. And that was a momentous time. And I think the next craziest moment sequentially was late December of that same year. I'm at around 9,500, 10,000 subs. My daughter's sick. She's got the flu. First time she's got the flu ever, man. And if and when you have kids, you think projectile vomiting is a myth. No, man. Projectile vomiting is real. Whoa, terrible night, man. Terrible night. My daughter, it's like 3 a.m. My daughter's a total mess. Whatever, I'm putting her, trying to rock her back to bed, and I get a ding from my phone, and I'm like, what's on my phone? And I look at my phone, and it says, Path of Exile message on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, it was still Twitter at the time. I was like, what? Like I got a Twitter notification, and I open it, I go, and it's a freaking DM from the Path of Exile Twitter account, and it's like, hey, Jonathan is keen on you interviewing him about Path of Exile 2 in the new year. And I'm like, oh my god, what? This is crazy. This is crazy. I woke up my wife. She had fallen asleep after, our daughter vomited all over our bed. And I woke her up. I was so excited, man. Because at this point, very small, my videos aren't doing incredibly, they're doing decently well, right? But I wasn't, I don't know, I was a nobody. There's so many other people in the community. The Path of Exile community might be a niche community, but there are a lot of creators in it, right? So this was such a crazy opportunity. That happened. Then, we set the date eventually. It was going to be in March, right? And then a few weeks later, I get another DM, and they're like, hey, we're doing an event in Los Angeles. We'd like to fly you out to play Path of Exile 2. And I'm like, this is crazy. Man, this is what Blaze, man. This is why, I remember so vividly on Path of Exile's launch day, as I was waiting with my biggest live stream ever. And I don't know if you were in the chat or anybody who became a creator, because I know a lot of people say that I helped inspire them. I said to everybody, freaking chase your dreams and just go for it. Do not be too scared or think that you'll do poorly. The least that can happen is you can fail, right? Just go for it. Because I am a nobody, guys. No content creation. I'm not good at builds. I'm not that smart. I just literally, and I think this pisses people off, I literally just really like the game and I talk about it. And that's all. And that seems to resonate with a lot of people. And I think all of us who would like to make things for others to view have that special sort of energy. And it has just snowballed these past 2 years. Went to that LA event. I told Jonathan to his face PoE2 was bad before anybody thought it was cool. So to all the people who say I'm a glazer, I told him Warrior and Maces were ass to his face. Because, dude, oh my god, PoE2 was...
It's my favorite class, too.
Oh my god,
How could you tell them that?
Dude, I found one rare in my 5-hour play session. And I was stuck in the Grellwood. It was called the old forest at that time for an hour getting swarmed by... Bro, I had to develop a strategy to all right, I gotta start rolling slamming as I see them on the edge of my screen. So the second and third roll. Oh my god, that's probably more akin to like Dark Souls. God, that was awful. That was really bad.
That was during the LA sort of like game demo preview.
Yeah, that was the first game demo for LA, and I got to talk to Jonathan. So nice in person and very passionate. He is a perfectionist. Okay, it's very evident when you're talking to him. He wants everyone to like everything. I get the sense, and it really sucks that he's kind of like, I mean, maybe everybody's like this, but like myself, like when I see people talking shit about me, at least up until like the past few weeks, man, it would affect me negatively, like mentally, and I'd be like, oh, how can I do better? How can I make this person understand my perspective? Because they obviously, like, if they hate me this much, I must not be communicating well enough. And that now I just, whatever, fuck it. I don't think there's any point. Sorry, guys. But yeah, like those moments, there's a whole bunch of other moments, like going again with my wife. They flew my wife out while she was pregnant. We got to play couch co-op together. That was a magical moment. Interviewing Asmund the night before launch. That was crazy. I don't know if you've heard that story, but he like DM'd me right as I turned off my stream and was going to bed. And he was like, yo, you want to talk? Biggest interview ever. Dude, it was so good.
I think I watched it.
And like launch day.
Josh Dave Hayes before
launch day. I think that's the other credit because he's my favorite content creator. Like he is an inspiration.
I love him.
He's so nice. He's so knowledgeable. And that dude, I mean, I felt he was basically like, if you want to see glazing, I swear, Josh, man, I know you're never going to hear me say this. Okay. But you were glazing the hell out of me on that. You were like lifting me up, and it was what a guy. What a guy. I don't know. Normalize glazing our bros.
Glazing our friends.
Yeah, yes. There you go. That's it.
I actually just listened to that podcast. I'm an artist, and I have a lot of time while I'm basically painting or doing my work to essentially consume a lot of like podcasts. That's like one of my favorite things to listen to. And so that was sort of one of my inspiration points behind sort of creating this podcast was I have a topic that I really love to talk about. There's so many people that are cool and interesting and knowledgeable and fun, and that there's so many opportunities to have these interesting conversations. And it feels like I'm sort of like giving back now that I can actually like sort of contribute to the content that I'm sort of been listening to and consuming a lot. And so I threw on that particular episode, and you're absolutely right. He was, I guess, glazing you really hard, but it was really cute listening to how excited both of you were just about Path of Exile 2. Like, you both were just so, like, over the moon excited for the game to come out. And it was funny listening to you both kind of, like, have these sort of expectations for how the game was going to play. Josh thought it was going to be a little bit like faster pace than it was, and he was trying to going behind the game design decisions on how the dodge rolling would make it so that the game would be faster and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that did not age very well, but it was cute that he thought that was going to be the case. But yeah, man, it's been really cool sort of hearing basically, in summary, how one video sort of that you enjoyed doing sort of blew up, and then that sort of snowballed into a bunch of really, really cool experiences.
Discipline, man. They want, like, the moment it started, you just consistent, you go at it, you don't give up. Because it wasn't hit after hit. You can look at my channel history. There are some like freaking lulls, but ever since the launch, it has been pretty damn consistent, and I don't know if I don't know. I'll share it here with everybody live today. I was like seriously considering at the launch of Dawn of the Hunt making a leap and like trying to do this sort of thing full time, and then that reception happened, and I was like, well, maybe I don't want to like put all of my eggs in this sort of I have a well-paying job. I've got, good health insurance. I have 2 kids. We want to have another kid. Like, do I want to gamble on whether or not like the masses really enjoy a release versus myself enjoying it? Because I do, like, people who are content creators, they say, I hear some of them say, well, I have no boss. I'm my own boss. Fuck that. What are you talking about? The audience is your boss. You literally have hundreds, thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of bosses. All right. And if you are not consistently like, what's the right word to say here? Like creating content that they enjoy, while also, like, in my opinion, you got to stay true to yourself, then you're screwed. Like, you know, you could, if I was, you know, truly business savvy, as GGG is being by waiting to release the Druid until the MTX pack comes out for Christmas 2025. That's tinfoil hat, by the way. Right? I could just, guys, rename the channel to Toxic Try. Oh my, whew, I know, I can see what makes people tick. And believe other streamers know what makes people tick as well. They know what pops off, right? And it is sad to see. I would never do that, though. I just couldn't freaking do that. People think I'm fakely positive. Bro, no. I'm just me. And I encourage everybody to just be authentic. That is the way to go. Don't be inauthentic. Don't do it.
Yeah, like if you started off your channel being Toxic Try and your initial first video that blew up was you being super toxic, there would be no reason for you not to do that because you're authentically being yourself. But just listening to hear you explain the story that you just shared with me, and I'm sure you've had the chance to share this a few times, like, you know, you started your channel just by making videos that you enjoyed about a game that you like loved to play. That was essentially the bottom line. And it still very much seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that you still very much enjoy this game and love to play it and love to make videos about it. So not much has really changed. And I think that if anyone, you know, just went back and looked at these things, they could probably piece it together that, like, this is what you've always been doing the whole time.
100%. Yeah. My voice has, okay. My voice has changed a little bit. My first video, The Curious Sounds, this is me, Blaze. Grinding Gear Games is a New Zealand I was like monotone into the mic, like reading a script like this is me. And now I'm just, you know, I'm like myself. I'm very animated. I'm far more comfortable with just shouting shit out and not like reading perfectly off the script. I have improved a little bit. Yes. So yeah, you'll see the same thing, guys. Go click on any random video. Besides, let's see, No, pretty much any random video, and you're gonna get the same guy essentially. You know, I just feel like I've evolved. In fact, I feel like I'm a little bit more nuanced than I was before, because before launch, you know, this was Path of Exile 2 was being hailed as this like savior next gen, and I feel like I did put it on a pedestal, and I wasn't ready for, you know, the true early access. You know, I talked about, oh, early access, there's going to be a lot of iteration, there's going to be a lot of bugs, right? But not even I was ready for like the level of like jank that still exists in the game, and the fact that, oh, well, it's kind of like PoE 1.5 with the speed of the game, all this stuff, you know. So I feel like since December, I've become a little bit more nuanced in my takes. Even though I think the perception is that I am a mindless GGG fanboy. I'm a GGG fanboy, but I'm not mindless. So, you know, people are half right.
I mean, it's honestly like very understandable. Like the game from what was presented just looked essentially like, and I can, you know, definitely put myself in, you know, people's shoes, being like, this game looks like Path of Exile 1, just better, like better in every way, basically. And that was what people thought the game was going to be. They just thought it was essentially just going to be Path of Exile 1, but with better graphics, with better character models, with better animations, with better sound design, with better visuals, everything like that. They did not expect the game to be different drastically in various areas. So, you know, like the whole expectation of what people thought the game was going to be, it just completely sort of, it was like GGG had like pulled the tablecloth from underneath some people, right? Like,
yeah. And I feel like a lot of people expected, for example, the end game to be a lot more built out than it was. Like somebody in chat just, you know, brought up a great point that they marketed it as a full game release, right? Like the market, it looked like an early access, but oh man, this is like early access of a very complete game. That is seriously, you know, big fanboy. That's what it looked like, you guys. GGG. It looked like a full release game when it is a beta, okay? And not everybody watches Jonathan Rogers interviews where he's like, oh yeah, early access was just, you know, some marketing slang. It's basically a beta. People aren't going to realize that when they play the game. And a lot of people, even if they listen to that, it's just going to fade away from their minds because you forget things very quickly after you consume them in today's day and age. So, like, there was a little bit of confusion around that too. So I don't fully fault people for thinking that.
For sure. And I know that you said like you haven't really gotten like a chance to play a lot of like early access games. Is this the only early access game you've ever played? Like, let me ask you that.
I played last Epoch early access to
Mm.
Endgame. Oh man, besides that, bro, any other early access? I don't think so. I tried like 10 minutes of No Rest for the Wicked and I really didn't like it. Not this latest patch, but the patch before. Oh no, yeah, that it's Path of Exile 2, Last Epoch, and a little bit of No Rest for the Wicked. I can't think of any other early access. I played like Head Start for like Guild Wars 2, but that wasn't early access. Yeah, I don't play a lot of games. I played Dota 2 during its beta, remember? Because it was still like in beta for years after it was on Steam.
Yeah.
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 So if that counts.
So I'll tell you this try. I've played a lot, probably a couple dozen at least early access games. There is a reason why there's a stigma around early access. There's a meme that goes around where it's like a guy holding a big scissors cutting this ribbon, and right beyond the ribbon is just a cliff, basically. And that's the way that people look at early access games. They're presented with this beautiful, shiny ribbon, but then as soon as you walk past that, there's just nothing. Path of Exile 2 isn't like that. There is a lot beyond the ribbon, even just the campaign, even just the end game that is presented to us at this point in time is still better, in my opinion, than 95% of any early access game that I've ever played before. It has that level of polish of a full game, but you're absolutely right. It was marketed as this, full product when there is clearly still a lot to be desired with it. But at the end of the day, like, I can understand from your perspective, like you've only played a couple early access titles, but there are games that come out that are like, it should be like, not allowed to release these games in early access. Like that term gets thrown around so loosely, dude. And the spectrum is on a different level, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it's another reason why when some of like the guests on my podcast sometimes echo that, oh, well, a lot of the complaints or the majority of the complaints come from Path of Exile 1 players, right? Who or upset with the game, and I think they have a right to be upset about the direction, especially Path of Exile 1 and the fact that it had stalled out on updates for so long. I think that most of the complaints do come from those folks because I think a lot of people who are brand new, what do they have to compare this? I'm confused what they have to compare this against, because I know that this is a very full game for an early access game. And it's a full, I see that it's a full game compared to even other released games. I won't name drop other games, but there's an argument to be had. There's more depth, complexity, fun to be had in Path of Exile 2's early access than some other similar titles, right? And I think Path of Exile 1 players, they're smart. They understand that Path of Exile 1 in many ways is a deeper, a superior game in their perspective because it does the things they care about a lot better than Path of Exile 2. So they're at kind of like this impasse. And I know, guys, don't get mad at me. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you. I'm just like trying to explain my thoughts in a coherent way. Like I think they find it difficult to cope with the fact that GGG is obviously putting more resources to PoE 2 than this game that they see as perfect or near perfect. And instead of seeing them put any work into it at all, it has essentially died in the past 11 months. Okay, it's going to get a new update. It looks like in June. We got a teaser today, so we'll talk about that in a little bit, maybe. But like, it's been dead for almost a year. That sucks. It had its most successful expansion ever, Blaze, and then it died. I mean, if that is your favorite game of all time, you try PoE 2, you don't like it, dagger through the heart, man. All right? There's no other way to like say it. Like, and I feel like anybody who thinks I don't believe this, or even you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, I think everybody can empathize with that. That sucks. And GGG messed up big time. They also admitted that they messed up. They did. So, there's that.
Absolutely. I feel like, I completely agree with everything that you just said. I'm putting it from the perspective of if, my favorite game is now Path of Exile 2. And if nothing happened for Path of Exile 2 for that long because of another game that was coming out, I would be equally as mad and upset as the Path of Exile 1 players are because of Path of Exile 2 right now. And so I think you're absolutely right. It automatically creates a sort of like negative perspective about the game because the game itself, the development of it has been impacting another game that's been, quite frankly, like responsible for its inception to begin with. So it is sort of like a little bit of a vicious cycle, but looking at it objectively from a person who doesn't come from the Path of Exile 1 community, there's no, like, I'm not surprised at all. Like, having a company make one game and only one game, moving on to two games, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be problems. It doesn't happen flawlessly. It never does. And so, like, if you could have asked me this question like a year ago and been like, do you think that Path of Exile 1 is going to still get those same 3-month updates after Path of Exile 2 comes out? I would have told you then. Probably not. It's probably going to get a hit for a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think that's just looking at it realistically. As much as that sucks and as much as that has impacted, the player base on such a terrible and negative way, I don't think it was surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in it's one of those things where it's like in retrospect, it was going to be inevitable, like especially now. It's just, I think the way that GGG handled it was poor because I get what you're saying, Blaze, but they explicitly said, hey, this ain't gonna happen, right? And it ended up happening, and it really sucks. Yeah. So I just hope that GGG gets the goodwill back of those Path of Exile 1 players, and this update is a banger because I think the best thing for PoE 2 is a good PoE 1 expansion and a good string of updates. And I hate seeing the community at each other's throats. I hate, people dunking on PoE 2 or dunking on PoE 1 or honestly, last Epoch. And even, guys, even Diablo 4 now. After seeing the whole freaking angry discourse around last Epoch and PoE 2 and PoE 1 and all of them cannibalizing each other, I really don't like I get D4 bad as like a meme, right? So it's not as vicious. But even then, I'm like, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I'm going to embrace the D4 bad meme anymore. But yeah.
Well, that meme is essentially sort of like a symbol of the times that we live in, where it's like, that turned out to be the case for a little bit. The game isn't bad. It's just, it wasn't well received by the community. But the power of that slogan or of that meme, essentially, it echoed throughout the entire community to the point now where, like, you can't talk about Diablo 4 without D4 bad going into your head. And that is what the developers at Grinding Gear Games are so afraid of right now. They're so afraid that, like, they're one patch away, they're one change away, they're one balance change away from PoE 2 bad, and then that echoes throughout time, right?
Dude, there's a better one. It's PoE 2 out of 10. All right. I mean, that one, that has some serious steam behind it, bro. Okay.
Yeah.
We just need a few gaming journalists to post those reviews on their sites, and it's gone. You get one Asmon react to PoE 2 out of 10. But they're getting
Asmon
fewer
loved
number.
PoE 2 when it came out. He had a great time.
Oh, he did.
What it sounded like.
Oh, he did. He also played freaking Minions, so
yeah.
Opinion discounted. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Minion lovers.
I watched him die on Warrior and then immediately just re-roll to Witch, and then it was just smooth sailing from there.
Yeah.
I'll ask you one more question. I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight. It's been a lovely conversation, so thank you so much for taking the time today. One more question to sort of end on, and interpret this in any way that you see fit. It's sort of a vague question, but do you think, in your sort of opinion, there will be a point at which Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 are both receiving the amount of love that they deserve, and that the communities themselves will be not at each other's throats and actually migrating between the two games, like the way that Grinding Gear Games has stated that they intended the games to operate, where one league starts in Path of Exile 2, one league ends in Path of Exile 1? Or do you think that there's always going to be this sort of, rivalry between the two games? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think a rivalry is healthy, but I don't like the toxic rivalry that is currently occurring. I do not have a doomer take on this. However, I have a realistic take on it, and I don't think it's going to be instant. I don't think it's going to be this year. I honestly don't think it's going to be next year. I think this is a long-term thing that's going to occur. Again, totally my opinion. I think by, wow, saying this year is kind of crazy. I think by the full release of Path of Exile 2 and its second, big prediction, second expansion, so 1.1, and I'm gonna say this comes out in 2027. I think by then there'll be a well-oiled machine, and they'll have a dedicated team for Path of Exile 1 and 2, and people who hop between the two depending on what is needed. They're going to need some time not only to understand how their company is going to function with these two games and needing consistent updates, but I think they also need to expand their development team. They're in New Zealand. The hiring process takes quite a while. They've obviously lost some senior talent in the past few months. That's going to take time to build up. But once they get going, once they're finally cooking both games consistently, I think they're going to be able to hit that stride until they start developing Path of Exile 3, and then we are all screwed.
Oh, I love that. I think that you're absolutely right. It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while. I know that Jonathan said 65% 2025. I personally am leaning more towards the Q4 2026 as the release date. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think it's probably gonna be somewhere in that realm.
Yeah, late 2026, early 2027, and just to combat this point that I often see it. I see a lot of like Path of Exile 2 enjoyers, and even some like Path of Exile 1 lovers too, saying this, that, oh, well, PoE 1 is just going to die off. Like, nobody's going to want to play PoE 1. Dudes, you guys are wrong. Especially if GGG, continues to differentiate both titles. There is always going to be a cult audience, at least for PoE 1. I cannot hear the fact that, oh, PoE 1's going to die, when it just, oh god, 11 months ago, it had its largest expansion ever. I think it's going to be wildly popular, this 3.26, because people have been waiting for it for a long time, and because Path of Exile 2 introduced a brand new audience to the PoE-verse, and even to Last Epoch, all right? Last Epoch definitely got a boost from PoE 2, I'll tell you that. I think the same's going to happen for Path of Exile 1, especially because it's free to play. That's what I think. I don't think both games are going to die as long as GGG can find that balance within the next 2 to 3 years. I think both will be able to run.
Absolutely, dude. I don't think that there's ever a world in which Path of Exile 1 ever dies. I mean, look at Diablo 2. That game came out in 2000. It's 25 years old. People are still playing it to this day. There's a healthy community of people playing it to this day. That game is basically a representation of the way that Path of Exile 1 is going to be held in that same regard. Basically, it's a good game. It's a very, very good game. And because of that, people will be playing it for a very long time until Grinding Gear Games decides to, for whatever reason, stop putting the servers up. That's basically what it's going to come down to, because as long as those servers are online, people are going to be playing Path of Exile 1.
Yeah, it fills a spectacular niche in the entire community, like in the genre. It really does. There is no other game like it. There really isn't.
Yeah, and that's great. And I think that, as Path of Exile 2 sort of gets more developed, I mean, people can choose what they want to play. If you're enjoying Path of Exile 2 more so than Path of Exile 1, then that's the game for you. But there's no one telling you that you have to play both. There's no one telling you that you have to play either one. And I think that that's where a lot of the passions lies, that a lot of players think that because you like Path of Exile 1, you have to like Path of Exile 2 as well, when in fact, that's not the case.
Definitely not. Yeah, you can play both. You can play other games, just like I've been playing Claire Obscure Expedition 33, guys. It's a good game.
And you have to applaud Try for that, because he hasn't tried that many games before. So when he gets into a game, that's a big deal, because that's just adding to the various short list of titles.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah.
All right, man. Well, yeah, it's been so good having you on the podcast today. At this point in time, just shout yourself out, plug yourself a little bit, tell us what you're working on, where we can find you, all that good stuff, and we will call it a night.
100%. Blaze, thanks so much for having me on. This has flown by. I was pretty tired when we hopped on, but I'm energized. I'm ready to stay up another 2 to 3 hours and totally regret it in the morning when I get up for work. you can find me on youtube.com/talkativetry, twitch.tv/talkativetry. And those are the two important ones. Check out my content there if you haven't already. I appreciate all your time today, man. This was a great interview, a great conversation, just as you said, about life, games, and everything in between.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Make sure not to stay up too late tonight, and I will catch you in the next one, guys. And I will make sure to leave a link to all of Try Stuff in the comments section of this video, as I always do. And until the next one, have a great night and take care. Peace out, y'all.
I did the peace sign without even knowing you were going to do a peace sign. Look at that. There you go. Called it.
Oh, dude, thank you so much, bro. Appreciate you.
I hope that went well. I thought that was great. I honestly do. That was great.
The fact that you're leaving the conversation feeling more energized and sort of awake after, I feel like is just sort of a sign that it went well, which I'm really happy about.
100%. So, yeah. People were... Yeah. I know I didn't get the collaboration request, unfortunately, but people were very active too in the chat. Guys, on my end, make sure you go. I'll do the shout out BlazeworksTV. Make sure you go check out what freaking mod's already beating me, dude. What the hell?
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. If I'm still on your stream right now, yeah, my name is Blaze. I just started making Path of Exile 2 content a couple months ago. I play hardcore solo Southbound pretty much exclusively. If you're interested in that type of gameplay, come check me out. And I also have a podcast that you heard Try so eloquently speak about. It was actually nice to hear you swear for once, man. I feel like you just unleashed a little bit, you know?
We're starting something new. We're starting a revolution because I just can't, man. I can't do it. Everybody everybody in the old guard tells me not to speak out against this shit, but if you don't speak out against it, it just gets worse. And I'm not saying anybody, I'm not necessarily calling out the people. I'm just calling out the behavior. Josh Strife Hayes says it best: attack ideas, attack systems, don't attack people. Right? I don't feel like I'm attacking people. I'm just saying when you communicate, I think, so ineffectively and so obviously just to make people angry, there's something wrong. I listen to politics, and holy shit, man, League launch, some of the freaking clips and some of the videos, it sounded like a political video, and I was like, oh no, not my PoE 2. Oh, please. Not good.
Well, it's exactly what Josh Strife has, and Josh Strife Hayes says, and I'll leave you on this. He says that when people get so invested in video games, it becomes part of their personality, it becomes part of their character, it becomes part of their person. And so when there is something going on with their video game in a negative way or a positive way, it feels like they are being attacked or being praised in their own personal character. And so I think that, as he has mentioned, not only on the Still Sane podcast, but on many other videos, it is dangerous to have something that you associate with as part of yourself, especially when it is a video game, because emotions run high, we get attacked, we feel like we're getting attacked, and so, but I feel that way about Path of Exile, so I'm a hypocrite now.
No, I do as well. So, all right, man, well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time today. It was fun.
Hell yeah, buddy. We'll talk soon, bro.
All right, see ya. Have a great night. Bye. That was so fun. Wasn't that fun, guys? Man, I am sweating so much. I'm dripping. Got some mad drip. You guys enjoy that? I thought Blaze that was awesome. Was that a great pod? I thought that was awesome. Oh man, my face is right in front of chat. What the heck am I doing? Bros, I need to move chat. That is all screwy. My goodness. I actually feel more energized right now. Uh-oh. Pretty dangerous, feeling more energized. Yeah, how did you guys like me getting interviewed? W or L? W or L for me getting interviewed. I thought Blaze did a stellar job. Thought that was great. Truly. Height 500? No, 800. Okay, 500? 100? Okay, maybe. Uh-oh. See. Oh, I thought I linked his stuff. Oh gosh. Here. Let me go link it again. My bad. No, not Breaking Bad behind the scenes. What? Breaking Bad behind the scenes? What? I haven't searched for Breaking Bad in a long time. Here we go. That is Blaze. That is it. There you go. Yep. And then, yeah, that's Blaze. Did it right? Yeah, his Twitch is there too. Thanks, Philatus. Yeah, oh yeah, I thought that was super fun. And shout out to him. He reached out to me, you guys. That's what you got to do. Like, seriously. More talk about the game and less talk about the community would have been nice. Was fun to listen to anyway. I get that. I definitely get that. It was definitely, you know, community focused. I understand. Let's go what? 24 font size, maybe? Maybe that's good. We'll see. All right. I saw a little bit of debate. What did I see debate about? Man, there was a lot of debate. I saw chat was going super fast during my rant, so I did not read chat at all, guys. But I had to rant. Like I felt the need to do it, to just to speak out, because it's pissing me the hell off. And I see some people that I watch now and I respect, doing it. And it's what I'm thinking, so I'm just letting loose. We got a ton of talk on normal interviews and Tries podcast. It was nice to jig more into try how it feels about things and hear about the community. Yeah, I thought, I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. But I'm biased. Very biased. Here we go. Oh, we were with me? Okay. I had no idea, if people were pissed or like, you freaking idiot. Also, the furry thing. What the hell, guys? Guys, I just like bears. Not even. No, sorry. I'm very bland. Like giga bland. Sorry. Okay, that's because he gets up on his hind legs and he slams on his front legs and just boom, 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 boom. It's so good. It's incredible. What a moment. What a moment. Okay. Yes, I also promised we would discuss it. So we discuss it. We shall. There was a Path of Exile 1 teaser today, guys. For those of you who do care about this, of which I think everybody who cares about PoE 2 should care about this. Right here. Yeah, let's go. Look at this. All right. So for the first time, so first of all, I saw this on my phone, and when I saw the texture of the background, I was like, it's an Atlas expansion. Oh my god! I knew it was the Atlas, and boom! Of course, you open it up and look at this freaking guys. Okay, for the first time in my life, I found meaning, purpose. A path has revealed itself, winding inexorably toward the Atlas. There are secrets buried there. I know its secrets. I was born to find. The trail is set, and I must follow it to find the originator. Holy shite, guys. Holy. All right. This is hype, okay? This is giga hype, okay? I know a lot of you probably don't play PoE 1. This is going to be an Atlas expansion, which means it's going to continue, or at least I believe it is. It's going to continue the end game story, which has not been touched since 2021? 2021? 2023? Oh, crap. 2023. What is it? Siege? of the Atlas? 2023? 2022? Oh my god. Siege of the Atlases was January or February 4th, 2022. Holy crap, it's been a long time. So I am extremely excited to see this, you guys. Like, beyond hyped. Okay, let's see. What are people feeling? Bear cosplay when? Maybe. Maybe during the release. Hey, Raya, what's going on? Try you should spar with us sometime. I'll get you a pass the gym I go to if you ever visit Georgia. You spar, do you spar, like, boxing? Or do you, fence? I've always wanted to try out, like, boxing. Just for the exercise. I feel like it would be a really good way to, like, maintain a really thin physique, like a good physique. I've never done it before, though. No more druid talk. In the gay community, the term bear refers to a larger man with body hair, by the way. Oh, so that's what that's what people might have been. Okay. Did not know. I feel like I can't handle a new class, 500 hours and still haven't played near enough builds yet. I've played very few builds as well. That's Maven's daddy. Yeah, guys, that's so hype. My first videos were about the Maven and lore, by the way. Cirrus did no wrong. It was Xana all along. Hey, Kionashin, what's going on? Xana, yeah. Like, I see Ziz saying Xana. Like, maybe this is Xana. Is there confirmation it's Xana? I know that she's, like, born to find, you know, born attached to the Atlas. But is there any conversation? I don't know. Oh, where's the teaser? It's right here. They posted it on Twitter. This is where they post everything, guys. It's why I have to be on Twitter. Despite the anger, the angry people. Look how happy everybody is. This makes me so happy. Never Sink, Gazis, Izarin, Empyrean, Dark, Dat Mods, DS Lily, Crouching Tree. You see, everybody's here. All the, you know, they're very excited about it. Havoc. They're ready to log into PoE 1. I'm really glad that everything is on track. And we're looking like we're going to get the expansion in June. That's really, really cool. Everybody should be wanting this. Hey, Poetic Man, what's happening? No, it's releasing this year, guys. It's 100% releasing this year. A few people are saying Xana on the Reddit. Are there some words that you can, like, dissect on here, maybe? I mean, I'm not going to do it, but maybe there are some words here. No, there's the pen, obviously. For the first time in my life, I've found meaning, purpose. I mean, it kind of, you know, you can kind of get the Xana vibes from it, you know? Oh, man, that's good. That's good. I'm glad. This is big. Big news. You doubt it's an Atlas expansion? Bro, if it's not an Atlas expansion, there would be riots in the streets. Absolute riots in the streets. It's definitely going to be an Atlas expansion. Okay? Bro. Synthesis 2.0. Oh, maybe. Gabriel. Yeah, you're actually right. Maybe it's Synthesis 2.0. Maybe it's expanding like the Venarius storyline or Valdo, or, you know, the Shaper a little bit. You could be right. I could be totally off base here. So. I have a problem though. Stellar Blade hits PC on the 11th. Oh. It's Xana and happy birthday try. Thank you. My birthday is Thursday, which, by the way, I don't think I will be streaming on Thursday. I'm going to be spending Thursday with my fam. But I might do a special stream tomorrow. We'll have to see how I'm feeling after work. A good one. That was a really good pod. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, man, I gotta work out after this. And okay, definite. No, you're right, Eric. You're right. Bro, you're right. It's not definitely. No definites. Yeah, so I gotta work out and I want to play some Expedition 33. I'm so close. Maybe. I'm not close. Hey, Nubular, what's happening? Good afternoon. Stratford is Justin Bieber's hometown? I didn't know that. It was a good trip. It was a really good trip. We saw As You Like It, which was quite good. It had a little bit of a modern day spin on it, but it still had the infamous, famous, all the world's a stage monologue, which was good. Oh, I was just interviewed, Nubular, by BlazeworksTV. It was a pretty good interview. It was interesting being interviewed. You know? I went off on some things that I usually don't go off on. No, I'm in Act 2. I'm in Act 2. Yeah, I won't do any spoilers. Were there lots of gotcha questions? You know it, bro. I only do interviews where there are gotcha questions, okay? Yeah, but I can't wait to. Am I canceled? Well, I don't know. It depends on how viral the interview goes. But it's on YouTube if you're interested. I think BlazeWorks is gonna post it soon. Well, no, I just had some, I think, maybe controversial opinions about how certain opinions spread in the PoE2 community and how it's bad. I disagree with it. Also, yes, there were some furry things, but come on. Come on. Come on. I was talking about how I'm not a furry. I just like the werebear form in PoE2. Okay? And I might dress up as a bear when the druid is launched. Just maybe. Possible. We'll see. Okay? No promises. I still have to do my cheese stream. I haven't forgotten about it, in case people have forgotten about it. I will never forget. But what if PoE2 is bad? Well, then I'll let you know. I hope it's not bad. I hope I enjoy it. If it's bad, then you know, you guys will know. Because I'll complain about it. If I'm not having fun, I'll complain about it. Yeah, people, don't forget the cheese stream. Please, God, no. Like I said, I took that break, and I don't want to do it when I'm in a shit mood. I feel like we're going to find out whom actually created the Atlas before Shaper rebuilt it. Vladis, do you think this is a break glass in case of emergency situation? Because it kind of seems like that. just a little bit. Like, all right, let's do it. Let's bring back Zana. Let's do an Atlas expansion. Let's go hard. Yeah, I looked at the teaser. Yep. I think the next class, if it's not the Druid, is going to be the Duelist. What do you wish it was if it was not the Druid? I would wish it to be the Marauder. I wish it would be the Marauder. I want Axes. Axes sound pretty badass in PoE2. Have you thought about armor being a tree instead of hidden mitigation curve? Oh god, I am Andrew. Andrew, my man. Remember, I'm not smart, bro. Remember, I'm like a dumbass. So I'm assuming, you know, obviously armor stops scaling at a certain point and it has, like, you know, that terrible drop off in power. I've seen Crypt pull up the he's explained it. Crypt has done it really well. Instead of that, there's like all these different branches that you can go down to continuously climb up the branches to gain in power for armor. Only because of this text, the device lay on my work table shattered and in pieces. I'm ashamed to admit now that not once did I ask what design it belonged to. Bro, my puzzle box. Could my puzzle box be related in some way to the Atlas expansion? It's possible. A hammer in one hand and an axe in the other hand. Now I have 2 skill tree noise. Can I say as an Australian how proud I was to hear you swearing, you sweet little mouth off in the pod with Caltrak, I think, brought a tear of joy to my eye. You should definitely watch the podcast with BlazeWorks then, because I said the F word more than I ever had in like a 2-minute time span. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I went pretty in. All right. Yeah, it's 10:21, guys. Okay, I have to read my brother's resume and critique it tonight. I have to work out. And if I have time, only if I have time, Expedition 33 to chill. Okay? Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm going to see if Blaze is still streaming. Okay? Blaze works? Oh, he's not streaming. He stopped streaming, did he? Yep, he stopped streaming. Dang. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in, dudes. I know I'm probably going to stream tomorrow. We'll have to see. Do we have any smaller streamers? That person who I rated the other night was so thankful, you guys. The one with like 10 viewers. So I kind of want to do it again tonight. So anybody on Twitch and would like to watch a smaller streamer, I'm gonna pop you on over to one. Okay. Okay, we got one. Big Done Filtered. All right. He's chill. He's the #2 lightning spear enjoyer in the world for Invoker. Okay. Go give him some love, dudes. Oh, you signed off, Blaze? All right. Well, thanks so much for the pod, man. That was literally awesome. It's going to power me through my workout and critiquing my brother's resume. So I really appreciate all of you for watching so much. If you haven't already, go check out BlazeworksTV's Twitch channel and YouTube channel. He's great. Really glad to have talked to him. All of you have a spectacular night. Stay sane, especially now that Zana's coming back into our lives.